They can thinking.
It's not happening with him.
It's a matter of life and death.
I'll tell you what's the matter with life and death. That beautiful lady over there. Hey, baby, check out the gun show going on over here. Boom, boom, firepower. Where are they?
Killing is making a choice.
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's not how the Force works. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
All right, and welcome on in to another episode of Oh So Curious. And as always, it's a show about three curious minds trying to tell time, and I'm desperately trying to pull up the graphic for that. Here it is, two curious minds trying to tell time. We talk about pop culture, we talk about news analysis. So, of course, I am your host, Daniyal, and with me today we have the Queen of Trivia, trying to come up with other names. She's a big fan of Keanu Reeves and Matrix, and so with us today is Max. How's it going, Max?
I'm very well. I like how every week it changes. I'm a Star Trek fan, Star Wars fan, Keanu Reeves fan. I think everyone gets a picture. But yeah, I'm good. Still on the island. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing well. There were like 3 tornadoes that touched down in Connecticut yesterday. I think the closest one was like 10 miles away. But you know, we had like a lot of rain and a lot of wind. It was a stormy day. Like apparently, they're surveying the damage today, and like one of the federal agencies is out here. I forget which one. Like whether it's FEMA or whoever. Maybe the NOAA, National whatever, or was it National Oceanic and something Administration. Anyway, also with us today we have the ever so well spoken, as well as of course the hater of Tom Hanks. And he also does not like Steven Spielberg or Saving Private Ryan. Andrew, what's up, Andrew?
I was gonna ask you, like, what am I, Dan? And that's, it certainly paints a picture. I'm fine. Drinking microwave coffee. It's a good day.
Let's not go in there again.
I mean, hey, we went there like all of the pre-show. What's the story with this? What's going on with this? You gotta explain to us. So Mags is not a big fan of this.
Yeah, we were about to start, and then we just hear in the background beep beep beep. Obviously, Mandrew using his microwave, and obviously I know it's 8 a.m. where you are. So yeah, we guessed it was coffee, and then guilty as
perfect
charged.
guess, first try, you nailed it. And
not only is it coffee, it's coffee from yesterday.
It's yesterday's coffee, reheated to satisfaction. Some might even say twice as good.
Yeah.
Some might not.
So, you know what I say?
I mean, to all the listeners and viewers out there, it takes you 3 minutes to make you a perfectly good cup of coffee. Don't follow Andrew's footsteps.
Or
have a nice day. Choose to have a nice day.
Or live a zero waste lifestyle. Drink all the coffee you make the day before. Heat it back up so that you can't even notice it's gone. It's Comment and like and subscribe and tell us which what would you do with your leftover coffee? Ding 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 right down there.
Exactly. Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on
that aside.
Coffee reheated on a microwave. All right. Well, let's move on to our first topic of the day. We always kick off with quick hits on the show. And of course, if you haven't seen or heard the show before, you might be wondering, what is a quick hit? Well, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a quick hit. It's the things, that pique our curiosity. Sometimes we, think about philosophical things like, why is water wet? We haven't yet had a discussion about that. But I don't know. It's not something we're talking about today, is all I know. What we are talking about today,
coffee
however,
brown?
that too. not on the list of topics of discussion. What is on the list of topics of discussion is Disney Plus Day. So Disney Plus Day took place on the 12th of November. So today, when we were taping the show, is the 14th. So a couple of days ago on Friday, and it was a day where Disney basically promoted it as, all right, here's a day when we announce all the new fantastic stuff that's going to be coming out on Disney Plus in the coming days and weeks and so on and so forth. And well, more like months and years, if you will. There was, I think, almost nothing that talked about is coming out in the days and weeks, other than stuff that already got released on the 12th, like a lot of their not a lot, but some of their MC movies, like Shang-Chi, that was in theaters previously, came out on Disney
which
Plus
we
on
reviewed.
We did. It was a fantastic
Which we
movie.
reviewed a few weeks back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
well, we had difference in opinion. That.
Well, yeah.
And no, it was a great film.
Some of us liked it more than others, I should say. That's probably a good way of putting it. But they announced a lot of upcoming shows and movies and projects, and I wanted to just quickly go over that and basically get your opinion. I'm just going to say, all right, here's something that they talked about, interested or not interested, and we're just going to roll down the list and take a look at a lot of the major announcements. They announced so much, I'm not going to go through everything, but we are going to cover some of the big ones because, there's a lot of Marvel stuff. They had some Star Wars announcements, things of that nature. So let's get right into it. I pulled up this article on the Nerdist, and they were so nice to basically put together a compilation of all the announcements. So let's start with the first one. The first one here, and this isn't necessarily in chronological order of announcements, but it's just the order in which the article is organized. So the first announcement here is X-Men 97. So as you can see by the logo there, that is the X-Men animated series from the 90s, and it looks like they're bringing it back, but they're calling it an original series. I don't know if that means it's just a Disney Plus original series as in how they market it, or they're saying that as in it's a continuation or it's a reboot. I don't know.
Is it prequel? Do you think it's prequel or?
Well, if you look at the tweet,
I think it might be a prequel.
The tweet says,
"What do you think, Andrew?"
See you in 2023 with all new episodes. So maybe it's just like a continuation. What do you think?
Just more episodes of the old series?
Well, right. Like they're doing new episodes. It's kind of like similar to what HBO Max has been doing with Young Justice. Right. The show was on Cartoon Network for a while. Then it got canceled a few years ago. And in recent times, like a couple of years ago, I think they brought it back. And now they've had like 2 or 3 seasons. And they're basically just continuing the story that the show already had before. It's just obviously, new episodes. It's same continuity, if you will. I think that's what they're going for here because that's known as one of the best Marvel animated shows of all time. So, good move, I think.
Well, when we talking about Disney, I need to stick with my Star Wars. So, yeah, probably not as excited as for everything else. What do you guys think? Excited or not?
Let's keep going. Well, here's a bigger logo. Here's something really weird. For some reason, they kept tagging Patrick Dempsey on their tweets until at some point they stopped doing it, and it was like a running joke for some reason. I think it's because he's part of one of their projects, which we're going to talk about in a bit. Miss Marvel, of course, they gave us a first look at Miss Marvel. We got some footage. We're not going to take a look at that now, but that's another Disney Plus show from Marvel Studios that's coming out. It's set to be, introduced. One of the younger heroes. She's I think the first Pakistani American superhero to be in the MCU. It's based on the comics. It's not like they invented this or anything. There's a comic run with Miss Marvel.
Making steps.
So again, the diversity of the MCU is about to increase even further, and the character is meant to be like she aspires to Captain Marvel, and so she's sort of like a super fan who then happens to get superpowers. That are similar to, I guess, what Captain Marvel's powers are. And this series, I'm pretty sure, is going to lead into the Marvels movie, which is going to be coming out in a few years' time. So, what do you guys think about that?
So much to keep track of ahead of time.
Yeah.
Can you even? Oh my gosh! Like they bring out the calendars. It's like here's every movie that's coming out in the next 5 years. I can't keep up. It seems like a lot of homework.
It's just driving hype for what's next, not necessarily what's now,
every time I see one of those things, I feel like I'm in a class and they've given me the syllabus and it's like, here's everything we're gonna cover. Make sure that you, and
Pay attention.
it feels like too much for me. Yeah, and I can't.
I thought I was like sort of on the track, like I was pretty much, I don't know, knowing what's happening, but I sort of lost touch. Couple of years back, I think, because I just couldn't keep up for exact same reason as you just said. It's a lot. They just,
It is.
It's like a non-stopping machine. But hey, they have the base audience for that, and a lot of people are also converting into like the Marvel, even after the end games and stuff. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to actually see how they're gonna take it. But I suppose, as Dan said, they have endless material. It's like a bottomless well to just like keep pushing those films. But yeah, anyway, what else do we have?
Oh, there's a lot more. There's an I Am Groot show.
Oh my god!
Coming out. I mean, that's super cute. It's a show.
Pass.
We're gonna see baby Groot grow up and get in trouble.
Next.
Yeah, I guess it's an animated show. Okay, I like the look of it. I'm gonna enjoy this. It's gonna be a guilty pleasure, if not anything else.
Oh,
She-Hulk. That's got.
Are they serious with all these? This feels like an Onion article.
Well, here's the thing. One of the themes about this year's Marvel announcements was, like, last year we thought we were getting like those B tier character shows, right? Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that eventually becomes like the last episode. They changed the title to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We all know where that was going. But, it didn't feel like there were a lot of A-tier Marvel characters involved in those shows, which is sort of on purpose. Like, you would give those characters a movie, not a TV show. Like Hawkeye, for example, another one, which is coming out later this year in December, Christmas time. But this year, it just felt like they were further down the rabbit hole of like, oh, now we're getting really deep into our catalog.
Yeah.
So, by comparison, I think She-Hulk is a relatively major development because... great actress, by the way. Tatiana Maslany is a great actress. She was in, what was that show on in the U.S. It was on AMC, Orphan Black, I think it was. Am I talking about the wrong show?
Right.
I think it was Orphan Black. She played like
slowly.
10 different versions of the same character. It was. She's a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
She was cast in this role a while ago, and Bruce Banner is going to be in this as well. So of course Mark Ruffalo is back.
Wow.
So we're going to get to see some of the backstory behind how he becomes human again filled in.
Sounds like a great fit, actually.
Yeah.
And when we talk about casting, it sounds like a great fit.
They showed some footage, and they showed some of the, like, her character in the iconic comic book green of, the Hulk characters as well as what She-Hulk looks like. It looks good. I mean, again, there's too little to really react to. Like, it's like 10 seconds of footage. The whole Marvel presentation was like 15 minutes long. So, we were talking about these individual titles, but each of them got very little screen time. And some of it is on purpose because a lot of these are still in either stages of different stages of production, whether there's very few of them that are actually completely done. In fact, I don't think any of them are. Most of them are.
All that exists for some of these is a logo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Secret Invasion, I think.
What is Secret Invasion? What is that?
So this is the one that involves Nick Fury. and the Skrulls, which were introduced in Captain Marvel, those creatures that can shape-shift into one of them was Nick Fury in Spiderman.
Right. As you know, Dan, I don't keep track of Marvel, so I would not know.
Right now, they actually gave us a picture of what Nick Fury looks like, and apparently he doesn't have an eye patch anymore, so you get to see his messed up eye, like, unfiltered. It's got a cool image, like, I think he's
They
going
really
out,
go into prequels.
This is based on actually a pretty popular comic book storyline. So I mean, this is one of the shows that I'm actually excited to see because to me, this is like the only show that's actually got like an A-tier Marvel character in it. In my opinion, like Nick Fury, like one of the OGs of the MCU, he's gonna have a big role to play in this. And Samuel L. Jackson, of course, like anything he does is fun to watch.
So what's with 80s, Andrew? Because I remember you've mentioned it at some point that 80s are sort of making its big comeback nowadays, right?
I would have said that they were making a comeback 5 years ago. I feel like we've been stuck in 80s nostalgia for 6 years now, and it's
it's fun.
and
this
at the same time,
Friday, Ghostbusters comes out. The new Ghostbusters
got
coming out this
Ghostbusters
Friday.
coming back.
Yeah.
I got Ghostbusters coming back.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was watching Family Guy. I still watch Family Guy here and there, and they had an episode
I
that was
watched it too.
the whole thing was let the 80s die because it's not compatible with our current world. It's like, hey man, pick a lane. Are we gonna relive them, or are we gonna abandon them completely? And I'm getting mixed messages, and I feel like with stuff like Stranger Things, we're kind of reinventing it or rewriting it. And
I'm okay with that.
I mean,
I'm
it
okay
worked
with
I
that.
was never there.
But like the reboots and we're gonna have a whole episode on this. This is a quick preview. We're gonna talk about this more next week. But right now, let's just quickly finish up with all these other announcements. There's a lot of them, so I'm just gonna start like rattling them off. And if anything interests you, you guys can tell me. But
Just give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agatha, House of Harkness. This is it's a spin-off of WandaVision. I'm kind of like also.
Dan,
I mean,
keep
it has
going.
potential.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Catherine Hahn.
Just keep
Ironheart.
going. Nah.
No,
Keep
really?
going.
I'm actually I'm interested. That's Oscar Isaac, and that's for the show Moon Knight.
Okay.
I love Moon Knight.
I mean, I like Oscar Isaac.
It's like a rip-off of Batman,
mid.
but it's a character that I really like.
Andrew's thumb twinching.
You should watch
It's
the
like
trailer. There's footage for this. It looks good. It looks good. That's a picture of the Miss Marvel
What else we got?
show. So that's the Miss Marvel's as a screen cap.
Yeah.
And then they also have this, which is also from Miss Marvel. They have a few screen cap. That's a picture from the She-Hulk trailer. So it looks very comic book accurate. That's another screen cap. That's a screen capture from Moon Knight. I gotta be honest, Moon Knight, probably one of the best things to come out of this. So yeah, these are all the big Marvel announcements. I mean, they also announced, they gave us a behind the scenes. Well, there's a lot more to Disney Plus Day. I just wanted to cover the big stuff, and a lot of the big stuff was Marvel. Other than this, they also.
I thought there was some Star Wars stuff. I was about to get all excited. And
oh, you want me to pull it up?
So what are they serving?
Well, okay. Well, I'm not going to pull up the article.
Because I've been extremely busy. Actually, I haven't had the chance. But
so
what are they doing for Star Wars?
They gave us a look at Boba Fett, which is just more footage. They also gave us a sizzle reel of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which actually leaked the day before on the internet, so it was like some people already saw it. It's not a trailer. It's like a sizzle, like behind the scenes. They're doing like stunt training. They're Ewan McGregor just like talking through the whole video about like how so cool to be back and having Hayden Christensen come back and all that good stuff. They gave us a bit of a preview of Ahsoka.
Oh, that's amazing.
This whole thing wasn't a live stream of any kind, like what DC Fandom does and has been doing for 2 years. They just like were shooting out these tweets all day long, and then they were like pointing you to Disney Plus where they had like these 10, 15-minute presentations, which I guess part of it is if you don't have Disney Plus, you're going to have to subscribe to like watch these presentations or at least get like the trial version. And that connects to probably the fact that they just really underperformed in this last quarter for new subscriber growth. And they came like 80% under expectation, and their stock actually dropped for Disney. So they're struggling to they seem to hit like a ceiling on their growth. So part of this whole effort was to like drive more interest into Disney Plus. Of course, Boba Fett is coming out. I think right at the end of December, they're gonna start releasing episodes. They didn't really talk anything about The Mandalorian season 3, so I don't know when that's gonna be happening. But
I was just thinking that it's quite funny how Disney Plus stocks were crashing, and then Facebook, meanwhile, is making billions in the last quarter. Was it 9 billion they made in the last quarter?
Well, I mean, Facebook makes its money off like advertising, you know, like Disney. They did talk Disney, by the way. One of the other things like that's more Disney proper, I guess, if you will, that they announced is Hocus Pocus. They did not announce. They gave us more information and more looks at Hocus Pocus 2, which is like a big anticipated thing. So yeah, a lot going on with that. But Disney Plus Day, all in all, I thought was an opportunity missed, because if they had done it like a traditional presentation style, whereas they just like send out all these tweets and stuff, it would have probably drawn an even bigger audience. But I'll tell you what will draw a huge audience next month, and also this upcoming Tuesday, it's gonna be there's a huge fan event that's gonna happen, and this fan event is gonna happen down in LA, where basically Sony and Marvel are going to talk about a number of different things, but the only thing that most people are probably going to be caring about is the new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. And now here's the thing. Some pictures leaked these past few days where basically it's all but confirmed that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are coming back as their Spider-Man, and they'll be part of this movie in addition to all those other villains from their movies that are coming back, like Doc Ock and the Green Goblin and Electro and all those guys. But people are just, that trailer is probably going to break the internet because the last trailer broke all sorts of records in terms of viewership for Sony, and this next trailer is going to be released at a fan event at Regal Sherman Oaks. And Andrew, that's down in LA, right? You know,
Yeah,
Regal Sherman Oaks?
that's where I would go.
Exactly.
Are you
So it's
actually
there.
going to?
Yeah, no,
You need to.
I could. It would be a long walk, but I could walk there. Yeah.
It's,
Interesting.
by the way, so if you're
Yeah.
looking for information, it's November 16th. So that's Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, so 5 p.m. your time. And it's a fan event. It's happening at that venue. You can also, I guess they have this website CBR, which we're pulling this from, is running a raffle where you go to fill out a Google form, and you could win up one of their 20 pairs of tickets. So if you're interested, and I guess if you haven't bought your ticket yet,
Send me the
take
link.
part. I'll send you the
Send
link.
me the
I'll
link.
definitely send you
I
the
would
link.
love a free ticket and
Let's
microwave
also
coffee.
include that.
Let me pull this up. There's a tweet about this.
I challenge you. If you're going to end up there, you have to bring your microwave coffee with you. That
Done.
would be amazing.
So yeah, there's a whole
Done.
poster. I'll
It's
send you
easy.
this link because this is probably more relevant. It tells you all the details. Doors open at 4. You have to be in your seats by 4:45. And it's a theater. It's a trailer launch event. This is literally they're telling you, come to the theater. We are launching this new trailer, and they're probably gonna have all kinds of marketing around this. Like they're gonna get fan reactions and probably post them on social, and how people
Yeah.
are just like psyching out about seeing all the Spider-Men back together. Well, not back together, but like together.
Do you
for
have
the
a
first time
favorite
on screen.
Spider-Man?
I love Andrew Garfield's the most. I thought that was probably the most well done version of. And I'm in the minority. I know that. And I grew up like I think I mentioned
Really?
this like on a recent episode that the first superhero movie I ever saw in theaters was the first Spider-Man movie. That when it came out in the early
Yeah.
2000s.
Same.
So I do like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man quite a bit. However, I don't think those movies have aged quite as well because superhero movies today, like they went through this revolution thanks to Christopher Nolan, and his Batman movies, and the X-Men movies really changed what a superhero movie looks like. And to me, like
Well,
some of those,
I
Spider-Man
I
movies don't hold
agree
up.
that they've changed,
Yeah.
but I actually prefer those old Spider-Man movies. They really
Yeah,
they
I'm
took you on the ride.
I'm a Tobey Maguire girl.
I'm a Tobey Maguire girl too.
Yay.
Well, I'm an Andrew Garfield guy, so. But you know what's
Guy.
interesting? None of us said, I'm forgetting his name.
Tom
too.
Holland.
None of us said
Tom
Tom
Holland.
Holland. None of us said Tom
He's
Holland.
just
None
a
of us
bit
said
too
Tom
much
Holland.
for me.
I
He's
think-
just a little bit too
Yeah.
charismatic. I don't know. I always imagined Spider-Man a bit of a emo type. Not emo type. That's the wrong description.
Well, I
He's an
think
like-
it's part of it is this
Yeah.
version of Spider-Man is he doesn't it feels like this version of Spider-Man through 2 movies and what's so far we have seen him in 2 solo movies and a bunch of other crossovers with the Avengers. It doesn't look like he's got a character arc. Like he sort of started out being the same person that he is now, and that's where I think people
Yeah.
don't see
Yeah.
it being as good as like the other 2
And
characters.
I
it's
wonder
what-
if any.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of the other ancillary characters are going to come back, like
Oh, probably.
What's his
I mean,
name?
J. Jonah Jameson,
like Harry and
yeah.
Mary Jane, and like it
Willem
would be.
Well, I
Willem
think Willem
Dafoe
Dafoe is
is
back.
out.
Willem
Green
Dafoe is
Goblin.
going to.
Doc Ock, he's back.
Oh, really? Wow.
What's his name? Alfred Molina. He's playing him. They de-aged the
I-
heck
Yeah.
out of him.
Like no offense to Tom Holland. I think he's a great actor. However, I don't think he is like Robert Downey Jr. or Scarlett Johansson, who can actually maintain a big blockbuster film and sort of run it on their own. Does that make sense? It's like you need some big
Yeah, it's
big
He did
celebrities,
that.
I'd say. I don't want to go there.
no.
Yeah.
I think
He's-
the real redeeming thing for him
Yeah.
is that he's actually all the times you see him, doing the acrobatics and those stunts, like he doesn't do every stunt, but a lot of that movement is him.
Yeah.
And that makes a
Wow.
big difference because, you know, other times, other movies, there's a stunt guy or there's an acrobatics guy. And that does make him an asset.
I will say this:
Fair
Andrew
enough.
Garfield did try to like do some of the swinging stuff on set for his movies. I mean, they never let you do too much simply because of insurance issues, and obviously they don't want to have a movie
Sure.
shut down because of that. Like we have had actors like Jackie Chan and Tom Cruise actually injured, and even like Daniel Craig injured themselves trying to do their own stunts, and then the movie gets shut down for months.
Recently, Alec Baldwin's.
Well, that's sort of a different. That's not
Yeah.
that's not good. That's a totally different situation. But yeah, this is going to be a big deal on Tuesday. When they release the trailer, I guarantee you that trailer will either be out online either before as is or after, because people are going to leak it. There is an expectation that this event is meant to be a way to drive a lot of hype and then get a lot of good, hopefully, footage that they can use for their marketing purposes. And then the trailer is probably going to drop online immediately after. I'm really looking forward to it. But with that said, guys, we got to move on. And what we're going to after talking about all these quick hits, which, again, like ended up going a lot longer than we usually would like them to. Like, I think we went on for like 25 minutes longer than these quick hits should be. But at any rate, if you like what we talked about, then give our channel a like. If you haven't yet, then please do subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you are listening to us as a podcast, then leave us a review. If you don't want to leave us a review on your podcasting service, then you may as well go to Oh So Curious, that is OSOCURIOUS.com, and leave us a review there. We'd love to know your thoughts on the Spiderman trailer that's coming out this Tuesday. We'd love to know which of the new Disney Plus Day announcements you're excited about. You know, is it the Marvel stuff? Is it the Star Wars stuff? Is it the new Pixar stuff? Are you excited about the new Buzz Lightyear movie? There's so much stuff out there. We talked about very few of the things, but we touched on all the big ones. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let us know in the comments below on our website, as well as your favorite podcasting service. But coming up next, we have, of course, Rolan Underground. Rolan Underground, as always, he's up to no good, and today he's talking about something new, something old, something nostalgic. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hi, welcome to Rolan Underground, where we talk about what's happening in the world above while in my grandparents' basement. Who opened this door? Still gotta be respectful. Today's episode is about kind of a serious, it's a topic, and I think it's something we need to address. I was on YouTube and I saw there was a new trailer for Stranger Things. I love that show. I clicked on it, I saw an ad for a movie called 8-Bit Christmas, which is about Neil Patrick Harris talking about his childhood in the 80s. And it just got me thinking about how there's so much 80s content and just bringing up all these old things, and how Chris Pratt somehow got casted as both Garfield and Mario. You know, good for him, he's actually doing really well right now, but weird for him to get casted as those characters. I find that weird. But it got me thinking about how nostalgia has such an iron grip on media right now, and I was like, let's talk about it, because it's my show and I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. You know what, let me tell you a story. Before this office was how it is, it was a mess. It was full of junk and garbage that nobody touched for years. So I got sick and tired of looking at it. So I cleared it out. I put stuff in garbage bags. I saw some yearbooks. I brought the garbage bags and the yearbooks upstairs. I put the yearbooks on the table and tried to go out with the garbage bags, and my grandmother stopped me. And she said, what do you have in there? And then proceeded to go through the garbage bags. Like, go through them. And she was like, what? You're throwing away this pillow? This is my favorite pillow. Clearly, since you haven't used it in over 3 years, I somehow got rid of most of the garbage, and I called my uncle, that was his yearbooks, through all of school, and I said, hey man, I have your yearbooks, you know, do you want me to drop them off? And he was like, just throw them away. What? He was like, throw them away. Why would I need to look through those? I lived through it. I don't need, just throw it away. It's like, don't you think your wife or your kids would want to see them? He was like, no, they don't need to see that. Go away. So I feel like that perfectly explains how there are some people that drown themselves with nostalgia and try to keep on to these things, these feelings, whatever. And there's those that completely reject nostalgia and almost refuse to look back. Now, there's some pros and cons of each side, so it's hard to say that nostalgia is evil because it isn't, but it's not good, in my personal opinion. I'm not one to be, well, I am very nostalgic, and I try to suppress that as much as I can, but there's a rule in my friend group that if it's just us, we're not allowed to talk about certain stories because I've heard them talk about it so much. I've heard their different interpretations, like it's just little details, but overall it's the same thing, and I can't do it, and I get very upset because I find it's not healthy. That's my main problem. First of all, nostalgia comes from around 1700s, whatever, when soldiers would get classified as, there's a disease, an illness really, but a disease where they had this burning need to go to their home, to a place, and now defined as a over-romanticized desire to go to a certain time. Now, this modern definition is not so modern. I mean, if you think about it, this is a feeling that is relevant in all of history. Everybody now wants to live in the 80s, and then people in the 80s wanted to live in the 50s, and the people in the 50s wanted to live in the 20s, and then so on and so forth, to even when the Romans wanted to live, with the ancient Egyptians and based a lot of their philosophy, and not a lot, but their philosophy in that. And everybody knows, Roman this and that, and it's all connected. Even in politics, the whole MAGA thing, Make America Great Again, is a reference to, like the 80s during Reagan time. But here's the thing, that phrase, let's make America great again, is from the 80s. It's from Reagan, talking about the 50s. But everybody's felt this way. There is some good part because you don't want to forget history, because those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. But you are doomed to falsely live in it if you keep trying to live in these memories. You keep trying to listen to the same music you did when you were a kid, or watch the movies, or play this video game. No matter what you do, it's not going to replicate it. I trust me, I've tried. I'm 21 now, and I still think about like stuff in high school. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, that would be so fun to do this again, or oh my gosh, you remember that time. And that's okay every once in a while, but I know people that will stay in those memories forever, just live in those things and just distort these good memories into something that it wasn't. Like, high school was shitty. High school was shitty for everybody. That everybody has this nostalgia kind of like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be so fun if we went back, I feel that way about college too, there was some really great moments in college, but college was shitty. I had a lot of deadlines, I had a lot of stress, and when I wasn't doing that, I was by myself a lot. I just didn't, you see, when this is becoming a lot depressing than I want it to, but I bring this up to the people's attention because I don't think it's brought up enough. First of all, I know why there is so much content from the 80s right now. It makes perfect sense. The average producer, director really is around 51, 50 through 52, that number. They're around that age. So if you do some math from 2021 minus 40 years, and that was their childhood. That was their teenage years. That was this and that for them. Those were good times. Those were times they were trying to relive. A lot of these stories could be told in modern time, and you could be said like, hey, the things were same back then, but it's, no matter what you do, you can only interpret the past, is really what I'm trying to get at. There's no way in hell you're gonna replicate it. I'm sorry. When you watch this movie that you loved as a kid, you're gonna see some flaws. You're gonna say, hey, I've seen this story 1,000 times before. I don't know if this was anything that groundbreaking that I remember. Maybe it was, but you're not gonna get that same feeling. And it's shitty, but it's just kind of something that you have to accept. I completely understand in 20 years, I'm gonna see tons of movies that are based when I was a kid or when I was a teenager. You know, I've come to terms with that. I just find it a problem because there's this quote: the more you fetishize the past, the more you're removed from reality. Because this nostalgia feeling is, you know, it's an illness, but it's an incurable thing. The only somewhat curable thing you can do is do escapism. I'm a big daydreamer. I love daydreaming, but you can't live in those daydreams. I say this because I've seen so many people just almost ruin their lives because they just refuse to move on. This isn't that funny of an episode. The more I talk about this, the more I'm like, this isn't funny. I mean, I've said it for years, you know, I understand that there's one story told once just in different perspective or different this and that, but you gotta create more original stuff. You gotta move on. You can't do these reboots and sequels. You see tons of these. There's tons. I understand from a marketing standpoint, like, this is our demographic. We have to go. We have to shoot. But you will get so much more credit and praise and respect if you go out of your way and try to create something original. I'm pretty sure I've said it on the show. God, this episode isn't funny, but what I'm saying is you can't change the past. You just gotta move on with your life, and that's that. Sure, you can be nostalgic every once in a while, but don't let it consume you. Don't let it run your life. And that was this week's episode. Tell us your favorite sequel in the comments.
Today, we're going to talk about the Metaverse. I want to share what we imagine is possible. The experiences you'll have, the creative economy we'll all build, and the technology that needs to be invented, as well as how we're going to all do this together.
You're here!
The next platform and medium will be even more immersive.
Like a shop.
Some call it skill.
Keep talking.
An embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the Metaverse. Everything we do online today, connecting socially, entertainment, games, work, is going to be more natural and vivid.
Whoa, all right, that's a little too realistic.
Now this is more my style. We believe the Metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. And you're going to be able to do almost anything you can imagine. All right, perfect.
Boy.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi, Mark. What's up, Mark?
This place is amazing.
The feeling of presence. This is the defining quality of the Metaverse. You're going to really feel like you're there with other people. You'll see their facial expressions, you'll see their body language, maybe figure out if they're actually holding a winning hand. All the subtle ways that we communicate that today's technology can't quite deliver.
I knew you were bluffing.
Avatars will be as common as profile pictures today, but instead of a static image, they're going to be living 3D representations of you. Beyond avatars, there is your home space. Your home is your personal space from which you can teleport to anywhere you want.
Koi fish that fly? That's new.
This is wild.
The metaverse isn't something we're building so much as it's something we're building for.
Across the industry, we need to bring that same imagination and commitment to building for interoperability, openness, safety, and privacy as we do for all the other product aspects of the metaverse. These have to be fundamental building blocks, just like the other software and experiences that we've been talking about.
Boy.
Our hope, though, is that if we all work at it, then within the next decade, the metaverse will reach 1 billion people, host hundreds of billions of dollars of digital commerce, and support jobs for millions of creators and developers. We are fully committed to this. It is the next chapter of our work, and we believe for the internet overall. Beyond the constraints of screens, beyond the limits of distance and physics, beyond any one company, and that will be made by all of us. And I'm just incredibly energized to be on this journey with all of you.
That was fun.
Good job, Mark.
Oh my god. I cringe so hard right now. But anyway.
It's bad. It's bad. So I watched the full hour and a half presentation on the Metaverse.
Dread.
I think the key take it was a long hour and a half. Yeah. So it's
This is a nicer version. Let's just make it clear for our viewers. This is a nicer version. That an hour and a half long version it feels like Easter eggs hunt.
It's
yeah.
This is like the marketing speak, because they know most people are not gonna watch the live event for 90 minutes. They're just gonna like see the highlights, and so they cut these videos. They're like obviously putting out all the good stuff, and you don't get some of the cringy, awkward stuff that they cut out because obviously they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty I could say about the production style and the acting and but I really wanted to focus on there's one thing that I'm not sure if you caught it, but one of the developers said the metaverse isn't something we're building, it's something we're building for. And it's a quick little distraction there, but that's really what's going on here. Facebook Meta, as they've rebranded, they're not building the metaverse. Nobody's building the metaverse. They're anticipating the metaverse. They've created the phrase the metaverse so that it's like the gold rush, and Facebook is positioning themselves. They're saying there's going to be a gold rush and we're going to be those people who made millions selling you everything along the way. And they drop a bunch of these breadcrumbs about how they're going to be making a lot of money through this. They mention that you're going to be able to tip artists, so that you can see their art for a few minutes longer. Well, look at PayPal. You can pay for anything on PayPal, but they always take a commission. You're playing poker, you're gambling. All right, fine. It's just a quick transaction, but yoink, we're going to take that as well.
It's unfortunately we're at the stage in our lives where it seems like we have to pay for our convenience, and that was sort of that harsh truth I had to learn.
Yeah.
While I was trying to save that, being like, oh no, I can do it, or like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. The truth is, no, in order to really survive and like make things work in this world, you have to play the convenience game, which, as you said, it's always at cost. You have to pay for the quality or for the experience, essentially. So yeah.
Well, can I just,
Andrew?
I want to. This is such a big topic, right? Can I just go back and just talk about some of the absurd stuff here? I first heard. So I was sitting through a whole day of meetings for my day job. And when this announcement happened, like, oh, Facebook just rebranded themselves as Meta, and then I slowly read into and eventually found video about this, and I'm like, is this the Metaverse or is this the Matrix? Because to me it seems like the Matrix. Like that's what. Because here's the thing, you gotta understand, technologies like these, you have to sort of prepare for the worst in humanity, because yes, in an ideal world you make something like this happen. But then, it doesn't result in people just leading an even more sedentary life where they just forget about their real life bodies and just decide to live in this virtual world. Because we're getting closer and closer nowadays where people practically, they base their entire self-image off of their Instagram profile and what they are perceived as on social media. And in a world where we're coming out of the pandemic, people are just living on the internet more and more. But what this will enable you is to not just be informed by your experiences on the internet, but practically, you will have stimuli, physical stimuli that you're getting. You basically are plugging into the Matrix and just saying, okay, screw my real life body. I don't need to exercise or all that. As long as I'm living and breathing.
Beyond that,
I'm just going to live in that world.
There's a segment where they also tell you, they demonstrate how we've mapped an entire apartment into the metaverse, and so
Yeah.
you'll know you'll
Like
be able to find things you lost, which means that you can scan. We're going to scan your entire living quarters and have a record of where everything is in your private space.
Yeah, and also, why would people leave the virtual reality space like that? I mean, relating to what Dan said, that's just going to spike them. I mean, as we, people don't have the mental health issues problems already, that is going to really make some real cases out there, because people will not want to be unplugged, like from Matrix. Essentially that's how I imagine it. And have you noticed not at any point they showed the actual technology they're going to use? They haven't shown the goggles throughout the whole
they showed them
promo.
like very briefly.
No.
But yeah, go ahead.
Did they?
But that's why I bring up the financial aspect here, is that they mentioned through the video, we're going to build better VR goggles and you'll buy them. And we're going to build all of these products that will enhance your experience with this. And at the end of the day, they flat out tell you, we're not building the metaverse. We're going to sell you the tools for you to invent it. And he imagines that, this is going to lead to more jobs and creators are going to really, make this an incredible place for everybody. But at the end of the day, it doesn't exist. Nothing exists except these products that they're working on.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the way this event, I think, was intended is obviously they were rebranding their company. And so this was a new statement of intent of what is Meta now, that it's no longer Facebook, it's Meta. Obviously, Facebook, the platform exists, but the parent company is now Meta. And what is Meta? And this is what we will do, and this is what we will become. It's sort of like if Apple decided tomorrow to rebrand themselves as Orange, and they were like, well, there's already a company called Orange. Maybe Apple decided to rebrand themselves as Pineapple, and they were like, we will start making Pineapple headsets, and we will start making better laptops, and we will give you new payment systems that will be better than anything you've ever had before. I think that's what they were going with, but it's just, Mark Zuckerberg comes across as like a Bond villain, and it doesn't help their situation sometimes.
Yeah. But also, to add that point, I have this theory that it's all very conveniently happening now after, it was just a month ago when, what was her name? Frances Haugen, right? The whistleblower. She actually made a huge case, and then she leaked important documents about how harmful actually Facebook is. So I think that's actually a really elegant marketing move on their part to change the direction
it's funny you should say
of
elegant.
how Facebook's. I mean, in their eyes, they think, haha, we can outsmart you. But I suppose not Max, Andrew, and Dan. We know, we're on to you guys.
Well, I will say, I grew up with a branding and marketing guy for a dad, and his whole thing was anytime a company puts the CEO in a commercial, it's a last gasp for air because the company's failing.
Yeah.
It's a play to the ego of the person driving the company, saying like, yeah, I'm part of it. I'm the face of the company. I'm here for you. I'm happy. And it always comes across as inauthentic. And it's usually a marketing campaign, a marketing team flattering the genius.
Yeah. She's concerned, as Dan showing the article, that she is saying that she's extremely concerned, and to which Zuckerberg's, I mean, to all the allegations that essentially she had. Mark Zuckerberg's comment, I thought it was very interesting to sort of highlight that. His hit back was saying that the argument that we delibereately push content that makes people angry for a profit is deeply illogical. So, I mean, the first thing when I read that sentence was, well, he doesn't really say it's not possible. He's just saying it's illogical.
Yeah.
He's not even,
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on this, right? I'm like, okay, yes, it makes sense, right? Obviously, no company, I imagine no company would be out in the world to simply spread hate by design. But it's, I think, where people lose, or where Facebook loses people, is more so with the whole thing. We talked about Spiderman before earlier in the show, and one of the guiding principles of Spiderman is with great power comes great responsibility. But it seems like with Facebook, they, as a company, have never embraced that mantra, whereas they, more so than even maybe a Apple or a Facebook or a Twitter, are in a position where they should be embraced, because I think they're the biggest social media platform in the world still. Like in terms of viewership, and when you combine that with what Facebook, with Instagram, and their just reach is so big, they need to be better. I mean, they do police content. They do have a lot of moderations. They have warehouses full of people who are dedicated to this. But it's obviously, as per the leaks that came out recently with Francis, and then there's a lot of other stuff that has come out over the years about how Facebook uses data. The whole terms and conditions thing was like a topic of discussion for a while, about how if you actually read through them, the kind of things you find, and how you're like, oh my God, I'm giving up my life to these people. It's just, from
Max,
a PR standpoint,
to your point,
not a good place to be.
To your point about the logic, though, this is something that I see a lot, where people invoke logic as though logic and science are the only thing that make up the world, and things only happen for scientific reasons and for logical reasons, and that's its own fallacy. I think with Facebook especially, it's a monster that they don't have control of. It's a stallion. It's this wild horse, and
they lost it.
Totally. And things happen because of chaos a lot. And what Facebook is they've created chaos, and the moderation techniques that they use. They put people in Facebook jail, or they silence people, or they remove posts. That's them desperately trying to cling to some kind of control over this, Pandora's box that they opened.
We need a highly robust system. There was this I'm actually quoting one of the professors that said that. It was actually Dr. David Wright. He's a professor of AI and spatial computing. Essentially, he said that we need a highly robust system in place to police the metaverse. We don't have anything like this that could even control, an inch of it, probably. It's and even though he goes on about how they're only talking about early stages of it, but it's something that everyone should sort of focus straight away. So it kind of goes back to what the whistleblower was trying to say. There aren't any laws in place, nothing's sort of being controlled, moderated here, and we're talking about something enormously much bigger to what Facebook Meta already is. And it's just it's as you Andrew said, it's this monster without a leash. It's just out there, and they're upgrading it. It's a very fancy upgrade.
I want to. Okay, so I just put up the quote about Dr. Reed from Liverpool Hope University, and he mentioned like you said, we're clearly in the very early stages of this, but what Facebook is now trying to get into is far more. It's bigger than any tech. It's not some fancy new tech that they're talking about here. They're talking about and again, part of this is because this was a company event that was designed to this is our new company. This is what we do now. So they got philosophical on purpose. That's kind of what they were trying to do. They were trying to establish a new identity, but the way I guess what they're tying their identity to there's a metaphor here that I can't think of right now, but basically I think they're hitching their wagon to the wrong set of horses, I suppose, if that's how you want to talk about it, and where they're going, it feels like they're making the wrong bet, like what Andrew mentioned. From a marketing standpoint, this is Facebook desperately trying to get back to being in the good graces of the world at large, but they're doing it in a way that seems tone deaf especially at a time where we are living with more distrust about technology and social media than ever before. And as a society, we are more and more conspicuous about, how our data is handled. People are becoming more aware of how their data is utilized. It's there's no such thing as a free lunch. Facebook might be free to use, but it's free to use because they're advertising to you and they're taking your data. They're monetizing your data. So
it's gigantic. And Reed commented, I thought it was very eloquent quote, but he said that whoever controls it will basically have a control over the reality. And that's
Right.
when I had my gut punched, essentially. It's
That's I
very
think a
cool.
key takeaway, because I don't think anybody goes online anymore, and I feel like anybody who grew up with Facebook, like I did, they're not trying to spend more time online. Everybody's trying to disconnect a little bit and spend less time on social media. And we know it drives teen suicide. It drives division. It does get people. It gets friendships to end. I can't.
Marriages, everything. Marriages, friendships, families. Yeah.
I
There's a
can't
lot of
imagine
harm.
people really want to spend more time and immerse themselves even more deeply in an artificial reality that alienates them from real life. I know I won't. I'm not gonna be somebody who buys the goggles and gets the whole setup just so that I can be on a high def Zoom call.
Right. But I mentioned to you, Andrew, at some point, like, for those of you who don't know, I live in Malta, and what I've noticed is the entire market, the entire life is happening on Facebook and WhatsApp. As we gradually moved on to, not gradually, it was within, a couple of weeks, everyone moved on to Signal. Here, everyone essentially communicates through WhatsApp. And businesses, they don't have personal websites, they tend to have Facebook pages. So, countries like Malta will be the first people who will be like, yes, we love it, we want it. So there is more, our generation does not understand it, but there is a vast amount of people that will purchase those goggles. And my dad's been talking about getting VR goggles already. So
Wow.
I need to show him our podcast. This episode specifically.
It's just like you said, Facebook hits different with different demographics and different regions of the world. So the way we are taking this news and this whole event is probably not the same as that everybody's going to see it. But it's I think in general a lot of people will agree with if you explain to them what this means and the implications of this from a data privacy perspective and just how, and then also just from a health. This is, if you live in a digital world, then what about your physical body and like all the experiences of the real world, right? You're leaving all of that behind. It's sort of like you're plugging into the matrix again. And for Mark Zuckerberg,
my
to be
first
pushing
thought,
this, not ideal again.
my first thought with all that stuff is like, I've been in here, I've been in the metaverse for 6 days and I haven't showered. I don't want to imagine. I have
The idea might be
lack
like
of hygiene
eventually you
that comes
forget.
with.
Like eventually you don't care because you're like, well, who am I gonna go see physically anyway? I'm gonna go meet all my friends in the metaverse. They're not gonna smell soggy ass, non-shower.
Not to mention,
like that's not. They don't care about.
Not to mention, like these teenage girls who use Facetune and they use all these different apps to change their appearance, and they get body dysmorphia because they can't possibly look like the filters that they've put on themselves. That's going to extend to everybody who has an avatar.
And let's not forget, I'm sure you guys are the same sort of. Do you remember chat when there was just like chatting options? There was no Facebook. There was just like possibility to connect with someone through chat. And I remember you would meet people. I was being safe. I was being a good girl, but like you would socialize with people from school, for example, that you would never talk to in real life. And then the same thing happened, like people that you were socializing and you thought you had a great connection, quote unquote, there in the chat room was nothing like this in school. People were actually mean to you. So, Zuckerberg calls it real and, the best experience with your friends and meeting people and stuff. But it's not real. Is it actually real?
What it feels like is highly surveilled,
Right.
like there's going to be a record of everything that happens. And, even though it's funny because the way that they're all talking to each other, big hand gestures, making sure everything's very clear, it feels like they've got a million cameras on them. And it's going to be strange when people just realize like, oh yeah, everything that I do here is monitored.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
super invasive to moderate, right? Like in an environment where like you're giving your entire self to this system, in order to moderate that, they have to have access to all of that data. So like that security, it's the whole back to that very fundamental argument about it's, having freedom versus security. Like going back to even like 9/11 days, like, you have to give up your freedom to be surveilled. Like if you watch Captain America Civil War, they discuss that topic about, like the Sokovia Accords. Like they do it in a way that's like not, they do it in a way that's family friendly, like everybody can kind of come across and watch it. But ultimately the question becomes, and is your freedom, being more secure worth the sacrificing your freedom for it? And I think that kind of argument like leads into what we're talking about here, is you're going to have to give up basically if you feel like your data is not in the right hands today and that your privacy is at risk by using social media and the internet in general, then oh my god, this will be like 5 levels above what we currently have, or like basically, it's gonna this isn't they obviously were trying to come across as positive, and I think there's a lot of positive sides to it. But it's right. I mean, I think there's sides to this argument where you can say, okay, well, yes, in the internet, the world of the internet has created new industries for new job sectors and things of that nature where people have obviously benefited from it. Like, nowadays you can make a living just being a Twitch broadcaster, right? You don't have to like have a job that you would otherwise like go work in a physical location. So I could see that argument, but at the same time, there's a dark side to everything. And I think in this case, what we're trying to figure out is whether the good outweighs the bad or vice versa. And I think right now, a lot of people are landing on the side of yes, the bad outweighs the good.
But not to defend Zuckerberg or anything. Obviously, I'm not trying to defend the whole concept of Meta. However, do you guys remember where internet came out? Because Zuckerberg proudly announces it that Meta is going to be like the next level of internet, essentially. But do you remember back in 90s, was it? When the internet, or 80s even, when the internet was invented? People had similar reactions. Probably they had similar discussions.
In the 90s, yeah.
Right.
It came out in the 80s, it was like the military thing. Didn't really become something until the 90s, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's good to know. I actually had no idea. But I knew it was around 80s and 90s because I actually remember not having internet at home. That was crazy. And then we had internet and but yeah, people probably had the similar discussions as we were just having. Probably not over Wirecast and stuff. And
I'm gonna push back on that because I think back then people using the internet were people who had a reason to use the internet. And it was, it was a utility. It was, it was something new and different, and it was this frontier that nobody had established yet.
Right.
Facebook, it's heavily entrenched. It's everybody's connected on it already. Everybody's part of it, and now the way that they're presenting this idea is that we're all going to be in it, whereas the internet started out as nerds at home being like, yeah, I have my life out here, but I have friends in Europe that I'm talking to, and that was novel, and it was these were people who were creating what the internet would become. It's like the early days of YouTube where anybody could get onto the homepage because you had just uploaded something. It was free. Now there's an infrastructure. There's a whole system of how everything works. And as somebody who's already in control of one of the bigger players, I think Zuckerberg is looking for a way to pivot the rest of the world around this company and say, now I'm going to control even more. And this is how it's going to work.
But surely, I think we briefly talked about it. So what's his game plan? Like, do you think he's going to make like an exit like Steve Jobs did? Or is he just going to keep pushing till his last breath?
Every time something like that has been posed to him, his strategy always seems to be to aggressively attack the notion that he needs to step aside because he's done something wrong. Like that's the one thing which I think does the opposite of endearing him to any potential like people that were already not a fan of his. Like that's one of those things about Zuckerberg where he doesn't really read the room well, and then whoever his marketing PR guys are don't train him well enough, because whenever he's told like, or he's said, hey, so shouldn't you, because of all this controversy, step aside? Don't you think it'd be good to have a different person leading the company into the future because of all the baggage, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever said that to him, like baggage, the word, but like all the baggage you were bringing to the table. And every time his response is to attack the idea of, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm right. Like he uses things like the whole deeply illogical argument. I'm like, it's one thing to sidestep a question or try to like be diplomatic, but he attacks it.
Yeah.
And then his aggressive nature to there, I think the opposite of what any good, PR firm or rep would ever tell you to do. Is you're not supposed to like they don't. If you did it in a sports league, you get fined for doing like, oh, you go and attack a reporter or anything.
He should honestly, he should fire
feels
his
like
PR
he's above reproach.
representatives, honestly.
Regardless of whether he feels this or not, I think that attitude, what it comes across, and the reason why it only further not endears him to, I forget what the opposite of endear is, what further drives people to like hate him or not like him, is the fact that every time he attacks them, he comes across as like somebody who feels like he's above reproach. It's part of the reason why a lot of people hate Donald Trump, because the way he behaves is like, I am immune to whatever consequences anybody can possibly think of, so therefore I'll do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes. So that makes him even
like
less relatable
law
as a
doesn't
human.
apply.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes him
What I will say, what I will say about your question there is like, what do you think his game plan is? And after having watched this whole thing, I think my real issue with it is that the only things that he's got planned are products to sell people and ways to take a commission on every transaction that happens there. Beyond that, the metaverse it's a cloud. It's a puff of smoke. It doesn't exist. There is no plan.
Yeah.
He's saying, here's an idea, you build it, and I'll give you some tools, and they'll cost this much. But I don't think he's got a plan for the metaverse. This whole thing is so nebulous.
But I mean, yeah, because Dan actually answered that one, but for Meta, sure. I see that. So why Meta? Why Meta? Where's the name
metaverse,
from?
The concept, I think, is from the 90s, right? It was like a video game thing. And it's like the example of like Sims or GTA, like you live in a world and you have like a whole life that's digitized and
the game was called Second Life. Yeah.
Right.
And it was like hugely popular. It peaked in late 2000s, where I find out, and it had millions of users and hundreds of like headlines, and then it just died. And since then, everyone just assumed that it died, and it would never come back. Just as I don't know what other game is out there that just died and never made its comeback. But yeah, I guess we were all wrong, because here we are. They decided to use it. Metaverse.
Came back.
well, Metaverse
still exists,
actually.
But yeah.
Right. Yeah. But Metaverse, phrase essentially was coined in 1990s first in a science fiction novel called Snow Crash, where it served as a virtual reality successor to the internet, where people live large portions of their lives in virtual environments. So, yeah.
I mean, you're just describing The Matrix to me. Like, I just keep playing the Matrix trailer in my head, the new Matrix trailer. Like, and some iconic shots in it they're iconic to me already because the movie hasn't even come out yet. But, like where Keanu
What if
Reeves
it's
is
just
in the
an
elevator.
Advertisement for the metaverse?
It's such a timely movie
imagine.
Now. Well, I don't think it is, but
what if
that movie, like let's just go back to the original Matrix movie and then the series, the trilogy that came out. It was so timely because it was like the whole Y2K thing, and we're going into this new world, and people had all these apprehensions. And now I feel like we're at that next big leaping point potentially, with 5G technology like really taking hold, and with all this new now of course what Facebook is doing as what Meta is doing, we're at that next stage, and then the Matrix movie happens to be coming out. I think from a cultural zeitgeist standpoint, if anything, what this announcement did is give you one more reason to go watch the new Matrix movie, because I'm sure it's going to have commentary about things exactly like this. Like that trailer shot where Keanu Reeves looks up in the elevator and everybody's like deep into their phones and he's like, wow. Like, there's like there's a lot of visual metaphors in the trailer that I'm sure hopefully they're going to realize well in the movie. But yeah, I mean, I think to wrap this up, we should all agree. I think we all agree. We should. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but we should. Or I said that again. I think we all agree.
Tell me what to think.
Yeah, I think we all agree that the metaverse, as described by Meta and Mark Zuckerberg, is not something that we are all particularly looking forward to because of the detachment from the physical world, and like we're supposed to apparently leave our physical existence behind and connect into this virtual world and make our living there, make our entertainment there, meet our friends and everything there. I think all of us like prefer to be disconnected and sort of, we don't even want to like look at our phones like 2 days a week. Like we can just take your phone and just say, all right, well, I'm done with this, right?
Also, it's simply about having a choice of what you want to share. Because it seems like they're not giving you any ultimatums. It's either you share everything or nothing, kind of. No.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of gaps.
Did you get that feeling?
It's sort of. I think a lot of that is still undefined. This is them saying this is our vision, and again, I think they're hitching their wagon to the wrong set of horses here. This might go the way of 3D TVs went, like every 3D TVs were a big deal for a little while. James Cameron still wants to make.
Remember curved televisions?
Right. I mean, I think this might be one of those things where it's out of touch with the world at large and like where that sentiment is going, and like Andrew said earlier, like this seems like a last-ditch effort to rebrand themselves and reposition themselves as like at the center of what they feel like is going to be the next big cultural revolution. Whereas I think that what they will probably find out is that they shot their shot, but they were very wide of the mark and almost missed completely. Or at least I hope that's what happens. But you know what I certainly hope does happen is that a lot of us hopefully get a chance to go to Iceland, because I hear there's a thing called the Icelandverse, and it's so fantastic, and it's so much better than what the metaverse would be. So let's take a look at that, because I gotta be honest, that clip, I saw it like this morning, and it is priceless.
You're welcome.
Hi, and welcome to this very natural setting. Today, I want to talk about a revolutionary approach on how to connect our world without being super weird.
Even gave him the haircut.
Some said it's not possible. Some
They
said
really
it's out of reach. To them, we say it's already here. Seriously, look, it's right here. And what do we call this not-so-new chapter in human connectivity? The Icelandverse. Enhanced actual reality without silly-looking headsets. In our open world experience, everything is real.
I love this part.
And has been for millions of years.
I want this marketing agency.
It's
I want
completely immersive. With water that's wet.
Why is water wet? I don't know.
With humans to connect with. You're human, right? Isn't she funny? In the Icelandverse, there's real moss you can look at, but please don't touch. It's very delicate. Skies you can see with your eyeballs. Volcanic rocks you can caress.
Eyeballs.
Really big geysers you can observe from a safe distance. Birds you can watch. They're really cute, but a bit stupid. Waterfalls you can stand near, like this one, that one, this one, that one, and even this one. Horses you can ride, with hair you can touch. The Icelandverse is a world with possibilities so endless, they'll be here forever. So join us today, or tomorrow, or whenever. We are really easygoing. Now, please enjoy our logo.
Oh my god. He even got the whole, the little smile that Zuckerberg does. Great impersonator.
I was like, not only was this a good
Amazing.
rebuttal to the whole concept of the metaverse, but he really nailed Mark Zuckerberg down. I'm like, oh wow, this is on so many levels. This was priceless. Okay, all right. Well, that just about does it for us today. But before we tell you what's coming up next week on the show, I would like to remind you again, if you've been having fun, if you really enjoyed this conversation, of course, if you have something to say about the metaverse, then subscribe to our channel. Let us know what you think about the metaverse.
Andrew's microwaved coffee.
Yes, let us know what
Nobody's got a problem with that.
What do you think about that stale coffee that you put in the microwave the next day? I personally have done it before. I'm not gonna lie, every once in a while. But anyway, metaverse. What did you guys think about that? Don't quit. Don't quit. But do tell, if you have been listening to us, if you have been watching, let us know what you think about the metaverse. Let us know what you think about the Icelandverse. We'd love to know about that. If anything, I am now more interested, and I actually was looking up. No joke. I was looking up ticket prices for Iceland this morning because I was
it worked on you.
They got me, and I know they got me. But I am happy to have been gotten by them. So
perhaps that's how it's meant to work. Perhaps that's what it's meant to happen. Like Zuckerberg's meant to just come up with something that other companies can just steal from and make fun of, and make people get other stuff.
It makes sense, but I'll tell you what is deeply illogical about that is somehow none of that money is going to make it back to Zuckerberg unless it's somehow they're marketing it through Facebook's Facebook pages and stuff. But that part of it is deeply illogical, that how does this connect to him? I mean, but hey, I'll be honest with you, like I said, more excited about the Icelandverse than the Metaverse. I don't know about you guys, but I might actually be paying a visit to the Icelandverse. But with that, let's keep going here. We're going to talk about what's coming up next week's show. So guys, we had this conversation when we were talking about, in our pre-show meeting, and next week's show is all about franchises, prequels, sequels, spin-offs, adaptations. So many franchises. We've been talking about The Matrix, we've been talking about Spiderman, we've been talking about the MCU and all the different things that they're doing, Star Wars. We were talking about I think I took a random picture of a top news section of an IMDb page, and I was like, here's 6 stories, and let's see how many of these are sequels, prequels, and how many of these are original things. And I think we looked at 6, or there were 5, and I think 3 or 4 out of 5 were sequels, prequels. There's a new prequel to the Predator movies that's going to come out on Hulu called Prey.
Don't even list them down. There's just
Isn't there a new Gladiator sequel?
Crazy amount.
There's a Gladiator sequel.
That's right. That's how we ended up there.
Yeah, because we were looking at Ridley
people
Scott.
Who are listening.
We were looking at Ridley Scott, and we were looking at
people who are listening.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott's here in Medina. Go and have a look. And Russell Crowe. But what is
for all
he
you
doing
Los
here?
Angeles
He
people
died.
listening, they're no longer here. They're currently not here. That's not
But
news,
yeah, we're going to be
but it's
talking
true.
all about franchises. I think Roland's going to be back on the show like he's always doing,
Lucky
Rolan Underground.
me.
But Roland's going to be on the show next week, hopefully ranting all about franchises and how there's so many franchises. There's very few. And you know what? I include adaptations into this conversation. Because to me, that's not original. You're adapting something that somebody already did. So even a movie like Dune, which people are like, I have not seen a movie this original, sci-fi thing in such a long time. I'm like, it's an adaptation. Not only is it an adaptation, they already adapted it before. They're just doing it again because they felt,
Yeah, it's a remake.
It's a remake and a reboot and an adaptation and all kinds of things at the same time. It's part one of a duology and maybe a trilogy or whatever.
Should we? Okay, guys, I have a little challenge for next week. Let's find the craziest sort of combination. So it could be a prequel it could be a sequel, but which is also a prequel, which also is in fact a remake. Should we try to find something?
Yeah, we should all try to find something that's like a sequel, a prequel, a spin-off, adaptation, and a remake and a reboot all at the same time. I'm sure we can find some. I'm sure we can.
I'm sure. All right. Okay.
I've already got ideas. You can.
Nice.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun with this. I mean, this week we got all philosophical about the metaverse and the matrix and social media and data privacy, and I think that's a great topic to discuss. But next week we're gonna get back to talking about more movies and prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and adaptations, and how there are just so many franchises, and Hollywood just seems to be addicted to doing franchise stuff and not doing original content anymore. Like a movie like The Matrix doesn't come out these days because they don't give people as much of an opportunity. Certainly for theatrical releases, I think you see a lot more of that experimentation on streaming services. But we will talk all about that next week. In the meantime, if you have been watching, if you have been listening, give us a review. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe to our channel. We're here for you every week. We're hopefully producing some great content. Of course, we'd love to hear from you, whether it's great or not. This week we have.
Did we do it already?
What do you mean?
I thought we had this segment already. I thought we already did the likes.
We're
subscribe and all
I'm always
that.
But we gotta push for it again.
It's a shameless plug.
Let's push it forward.
We have to, right? You never know. Like people might have just tuned in for the Iceland verse, and now they didn't hear all my spiel before. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Let us know your comments if you're listening to our podcast. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. Next week, of course, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about so many franchises, all the prequels, sequels, spin-offs, and adaptations, and I'll try to make sure I don't run out of breath while I'm saying that. So, with that said. It's been Daniel, Mags, Andrew. We will see you next week. Anything else, guys, or we're ready to call it a day?
No, we're good.
No,
Let's
just
go.
one final sip. Goodbye.
Oh, dread. Bye, guys.
2 stale coffee. Until next week.